Welcome to It's Not Really About Dance, a podcast on all the things we're learning about raising healthy, happy, and wholesome kids and teenagers in today's world through the context of competitive dance. I'm Beth.
And I'm Sarah, and we believe that competitive kids activities are about way more than performance or awards. They're about teaching resilience, humility, confidence, and heart. Each episode will use the context of dance to dive into real talk, practical tips, and stories to inspire you to parent with purpose. Hello, Beth. We are finally making this podcast happen. I'm so excited for us to be recording our first episode. Are you excited?
I am. I feel like it's been such a long time coming. We had this planned out. I think we started talking about it like over a year ago and really got some ideas probably 6 months ago, really solidified and thought this would be rolling a lot sooner than this. But we both kind of had some life circumstances that popped up in between and it got delayed over the course of the summer this year. We're now launching it in the fall. And I feel like that was actually really good for us, though, because I feel like it gave us a chance to really solidify some things about what we wanted to say, and that this is going to be way, way better just because of when we're launching it. So really excited.
Yes, I for sure am in a much different headspace now about all of this than I would have been if we had tried to do this 6 months ago. So today on our very first episode, we're going to be sharing a little bit more about who each of us are, kind of the stories of how we got here to this place of being dance moms, for lack of a better term, and why we feel like competitive dance is the right environment for all of these important parenting lessons and moments. And we just want to generally give our listeners an idea of what makes our podcast unique and what we have planned for future episodes. There's tons of really great podcasts about dance specifically, but we want everyone to know what makes ours a little bit different. So, Beth, why don't you start us off and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, okay. So I'm Beth, of course, and I am a former educator. I taught elementary school in my first adult life, I would say. So I was trained in school and in my early career in just the way children learn and grow. And so I taught for 8 years. And then shortly after my first daughter was born, I had the opportunity to become the children's minister for our church that was being planted. And I went on that adventure, and that's what I've been doing ever since then. So for the past 14 years now, I've been living just deeper and deeper into that way of like understanding what kids need from an emotional and relational standpoint, and in the context of my work, also a faith standpoint, but looking at it at every stage of childhood. And it's pretty fascinating and awesome when you really start thinking about it, like how big it is for someone to meet a person and walk with them through just what they need at that stage of their life. And so just seeing people that walk with kids through all the ups and downs is really powerful. So in my day job, I lead and train people who work with kids and do just that. And for a long time, I thought I might actually have a book about it at some point, but I'm wondering if maybe this podcast is like how that's going to happen. But what about you?
Yep. So, like you, I am a teacher. I have been in traditional K-12 education. This is year 19, which feels crazy to say because I don't feel like I'm old enough to have been teaching for 19 years. But the majority of that time, I have been an elementary school librarian. So I am fortunate enough to see all 450 kids in my school once a week. I've also, before I did that, I taught first grade as a classroom teacher and second grade as a classroom teacher. I did that for 6 years. And I was the librarian at a junior high school as well. So I have kind of had professional experience with kids from, basically 6 all the way up to 14 and 15 years old. I cannot imagine doing anything else. I love kids. I love getting to know them and learn the unique things about them and how they learn. So, kind of like you, Beth, like I've just always been interested in child development and what that looks like in individual kids and kind of how that translates to their life, even beyond academics. My current school where I teach is third through fifth grade. So, kind of that upper elementary area is really my wheelhouse. That kind of they're getting awkward because they want to be grown, but they're really not yet. I just really enjoy that age kids. So, for other context, I am married to a pastor. So, the faith aspect is a big part of my life, but I do kind of have to keep that separate since I teach public school and just knowing that I can love those kids and kind of lead them in some of the ways you were talking about, but not as directly in a faith centered way as you get to do in your job.
Yeah, and we both kinda love that preteen age of kids, like big kids. When I taught school, I mostly taught 4th and 5th grade. I did 6th 1 year, but, really similar to the age that you're leading, and that's our love, but we have teenagers now, so we're learning that too. So, yeah, tell us about your connection to dance.
So I have two daughters. They are both dancers. They have both been dancing since they were itty bitty. We just sort of randomly started. My oldest daughter was 3 the summer that my younger daughter was born. So I was home with a newborn and needed her to have some kind of an activity to keep her busy. So I signed her up for a little baby ballerina summer camp that summer. And she went for a week and she really had a great time. I mean, I remember going and watching the little demo they did on the last day, and it was hilarious. She did nothing that everybody else was doing. It was the original improv, I guess. She made up her own moves and was running around, but she was just having a blast. So we kind of dove into it that way. That fall, I signed her up for ballet classes and of course, with my younger daughter, she just kind of came up in that watching her sister do it. And so it was a natural thing for her to want to do when she got to be, I think she was a little older, more like 4 before we started her in with dance. But they have both been doing that ever since. We tried other activities. In the summer, they did art camps and soccer and stuff like that. And just nothing ever really stuck the way dance did. And every year we have layered on something else and more classes and dove into competition when they were in third grade and kindergarten. But this is where we've been, and it's great. And I have learned a lot about them as little humans and the people they're going to be, and myself as a parent, and leading them through a lot of these things. What about you?
Yes, so I also am a mom. I have 3 girls, and as we parents do, we find things for them to explore when they're young and try out just like you did. So when my oldest was little, she was about 3, we put her in a little dance class as just kind of a fun thing to do, and it wasn't long before we realized that she's kind of made for the stage. That's her personality and always has been and probably always will be. Even when she was in that little 3 and 4-year-olds ballet class, I remember going to her spring recital, and we sat there for a 2-hour show to watch her dance for 60 seconds, and, she just, like, owned the stage for that 60 seconds, and I remember we were there seeing a lot of older girls that we knew, like, older elementary, teenage, and friends of ours were coming up to me saying, like, "You're gonna be doing this for a while." And it was the truth, but at that point, we didn't really know what all we were getting into, and I wanted her to try other things just like you, so we did some other stuff. We did gymnastics, we did tennis for a little while, a few other little things we dabbled in, but eventually by the time she was 7, she had landed on dance being, like, her thing, and at that point, I had also a 4 and a 1-year-old, so I had my second one was at that initial stage, kinda trying things out, and, obviously, the 1-year-old wasn't doing much yet at that point, but eventually, long story short, I have 3 dancers. We've all kind of explored some different things and landed in that place, and so now they are 8, 11, and 14, and you didn't get to share, Sarah, how old are your girls?
They are 10 and 13. So our girls are just kind of right stacked together. They do have some overlap in a lot of things that they do. They dance at the same studio. So we have a lot of similar experiences as far as what it is like for us to parent through these things because our girls dance all at the same studio, but with slightly different ages, and our kids' personalities are really different, I think. So we kind of end up navigating some different angles of things throughout this dance experience.
For sure. And like the biggest jump happened when, just like for you, when we made the shift from doing just dance classes to joining the competition team. And my oldest two were the same ages. They were 8 and 5, just like yours. We started a year ahead of you. But that put us in a context where we were just really starting to see, with more time and more energy and commitment going into this, we were starting to connect more consistently with some of the same teachers, which is not
Yes.
really what happens when you're doing the recreational type. So we really started building relationships with those teachers that were leading them, particularly our competition director became like a huge influence in my kids' lives. And they just started really experiencing some real joys and challenges in that context. And I started having my eyes open to that there was, like, a lot more happening to here than just taking dance. There really hasn't been any other context in my kids' lives that shaped their character as much as this. And so we're in our now 7th year of competitive dance, which I can't even believe, and it's our 13th year for me as a dance mom, though I don't love that title, and having 3 girls on the team, I've just found that people kinda come to me. They assume I know stuff, and sometimes I do, sometimes I really don't, but
Even if that thing is just how to glue on eyelashes.
right! It can be anything from, like, "What lipstick do you use?" to "How do I coach my kid through this devastating emotional thing they're going through at this stage?" And, like, all in between.
Yeah, same. It was a strange transition when I realized that I was sort of becoming one of the, like, veteran moms, for lack of a better term, that my girls had been on the team longer than a lot of others had because they did join relatively young, I would say, in comparison to when a lot of people take the leap into competitive dance. Yeah, people coming to me for stuff beyond really simple things like lipstick or how do I do a slick back ponytail kind of thing to some real digging into some hard stuff and looking for help and my perspective on that. So that sort of was an interesting transition when that happened for me.
Right, and I know I used to go to moms of older girls about so much of this. I mean, I remember, like, things like, "Is it supposed to cost this much?" I mean, there are just, like, so many layers of what you're learning when you're in a context like this, and it would be true whether we were doing soccer or dance or taekwondo or anything else, but I learned so much from so many other moms that were ahead of me in this. And you and I being at similar stages and being friends and spending a lot of time together, we've just had a lot of people asking us things. And we kind of decided it might be worthwhile to just put a microphone on our conversations. We just felt like we were sharing some of the same wisdom over and over and over with people. And not that we ever mind that. I mean, I actually enjoy being a
Yes,
voice of wisdom in
same.
people's lives, but to capture it in an organized way like this that we can share, and we're really hoping that by doing this podcast and having these conversations just on a microphone, that we can encourage some other dance parents and just help them feel seen and not alone, that there are some things that are really normal that we all have to go through, and you and I both have had moments long ago and very recent when we've been questioning, like, why are we doing this? And, we've come back from it every time. But I just believe that there are times in our lives when we have challenges that are coming up in a context like this that it really can shape us. And sometimes those challenges can be there to help us develop perseverance. And other times they can be like a wake up call, like something needs to change.
For sure.
And so we have a lot of those kind of conversations. So I'm hoping that we can just be real with you guys on here, and we're gonna commit to that. We'll be honest with you. Oh,
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think some of the things that are important to us that we want to talk about in future episodes are just those character development moments, like specific things we have seen opportunities for us to teach our kids and parent our kids through. So we definitely want to dive deep into specific character traits and things like that, as well as, this can be applicable to any kind of competitive sports. I mean, even though we only have dancers, we have friends who play travel soccer and friends with sons who do travel baseball and swimming. And we just see some of these same things cropping up across all different competitive kids activities. And we really felt like there was an opportunity here for us to kind of unpack some of those great life lessons that kids can get through these experiences. I mean, I never got into anything this deep of a level as a kid. I was a dabbler. I mean, I did a little bit of this every few years and changed up what I did. I mean, obviously my character still developed in the process, but it just my own personal experience being so different from this and looking at it from a parenting standpoint, we just feel like there's so much value in these competitive sports that make it worthwhile. The financial investment we're making, the time investment that we're making, and those inevitable, really hard things that our kids are going to have to work through. So that's our hope for the podcast moving forward. And the kinds of things we want to touch on. I mean, we have big plans for lots of different specific things, a lot of things being really fun, silly to a degree. And even we do want to share some of our favorite, like kind of practical tips and things really specific to dance. But for the most part, we hope that this can apply to anybody who works directly with kids through competitive activities and anyone who is leading children through some of these hard life things.
Yes. And one thing that we are not going to be doing is the dance mama drama stuff. I don't know if you're listening how much of this you've been exposed to, but in most contexts like this, there can be some negativity that hovers around. And so we've certainly witnessed some of that, but we have dubbed ourselves the drama extinguishers in our context. And if you're local here to us and you're listening and you ever see us have a conversation, it's not drama.
No.
We're like very level and trying to stay away from all that kind of stuff. And so if that's what you're looking for and you want to hear rants, we're probably not your
This is
people.
not the place for that.
But it also doesn't mean that we won't laugh a lot.
We have some really funny stories. Even when we were just kind of throwing this idea around things that happened, we were like, we need to make sure we talk about this if we ever do our podcast. Just funny moments. I mean, even though we have been doing this for a while, we are learning and growing ourselves. We do not have it all figured out. That is not the purpose of this podcast for us to feel like we are doling out knowledge to everyone, but more of a place for us to kind of give a voice to the things that are working and not working. As we're still leading our kids through this. I mean, we are both, our oldest are just now getting into high school and becoming a little bit more independent. And the things that they needed us for in the past are looking really different than the things they need us for now. And we talk all the time about how that first kid is the guinea pig. I mean, we do not know what we're doing with that kid. I have to apologize to mine all the time. I tell her, I'm sorry, I'm figuring it out with you and I know better with your sister. But we certainly are not coming at this from an angle that we know everything because we do not.
Yes. And so we're going to maybe eventually have some guests on here, even.
That would be great.
We have some ideas. So, get to know us a little bit for a little while, and then we might have some experts come and join us. But we really think that this is hopefully going to be something that's really encouraging to so many. And we kind of have started to just see this world through a certain set of lenses where we're looking for like what we can learn and how we can grow in this context. And so we just kind of want to share those glasses with you and like let you see this world through that lens. And we honestly believe that it will bring life and light. And that is our hope and our prayer for all of this, just to dig under the surface to the deeper things that are going on in this context.
Yes. So, our next episode, we're going to be sharing some stories about our very first competition events and the antics that ensued because we did not know what we did not know. So, make sure you listen to the next one right after this to hear a little bit more lighthearted side of things and where we came from. But we have a fun little sign off that we want to end our shows with every episode. And it is this question. So, since it's not really about dance, what is it about for you right now? We're hoping that this can kind of just give a little blip into what is going on in our lives this week and kind of where our headspace is. It might be something funny and random, or it might be something deeper or harder that we're kind of walking through in that moment. So, Beth, if it's not really about dance, what is it really about for you right now?
Okay, so right now it's all about mahjong. So I don't know if you're listening, if this is like all the craze where you are, but where we live here in the Southeast in the past, I don't know, year or
Yeah,
so,
probably a year.
this ancient tile game has just like taken off like crazy. And last competition season, so this was like winter of 2025. Yes, we started noticing like a couple of moms just setting up mahjong at these dance competitions. And so I was intrigued and I went and sat beside a few of them and tried to figure out what was going on. And it seemed really complex. So one of our other friends, our mutual dance mom friends, and I decided to take a class this past spring. So we went one night and we were educated in the ways of the mahjong.
It is so complicated.
And so we learned this, and I decided to kind of play online for a little while, and I did that for a few weeks, and then early in the summer, I bought a set, which they can be crazy expensive.
Great. I was shocked when I saw that some of these mahjong sets are like $600, like something insane.
I did not do this. I have the Amazon set. So I
Hobby Lobby.
score. So, yes. So, I got a set and I took it with us when my oldest daughter was actually doing a summer dance intensive out of town. And we were going to be visiting some family and staying with them while we were there. And I have a couple of little nephews who are around the age of my kids. So, I got this mahjong set and I decided I was going to teach all the cousins how to play, and they were like all into it. And so all summer, my kids, we would sit around on our back porch, and after dinner every night in the summer, because we're not running to dance every night in the summer, we would play a round of mahjong and we just kind of learned how to play. So, but then the reason this is like right on me right now is a couple weeks ago, we had a dance convention. And so another friend of mine who's into this too and we brought our mahjong sets, and we decided that we are going to use the time when all the parents are sitting around while the kids are in dance convention classes, and we're going to teach mahjong. And it was just such a fun and light thing. And talking about being drama extinguishers, nobody had time to worry about any kind of like comparison stuff or anything that they might be tempted to be dramatic about, because we had this complex tile game that everybody was trying to learn and focus on. And we just laughed and played and had such a good time. And I was like, this needs to come to every dance competition with us, because it just like cuts through
Mhm.
the other things that could distract us. And it was just like, I had so much fun, and I've got a couple of other people hooked now. So I'm excited for this to take off the rest of the season.
Yes, I admittedly was one of the people who did not know how to play, and it was really fun. I do think it also made a great space for there are a couple of moms who are newer to our team who had some friendship connections but didn't necessarily know everybody. Like it was such an easy icebreaker thing that those newer moms could jump in and learn how to play mahjong all together and just chat in that moment too, and something that felt really relaxed and fun. Like this was a great idea. I'm terrible, and so I downloaded an app on my iPad that just lets you practice making the hands. Like you don't even actually play the game. You just learn the card and you practice making the patterns with the tiles. So I'm practicing for the next time that we get together and play this.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So Sarah, it's your turn though. So it's not really about dance. So what is it about for you right now?
So mine is less fun than mahjong. We are navigating a potential, maybe serious injury with my oldest daughter. So this week has been about doctor's appointments and the complexities of how to schedule an MRI, which are things that I have never done before. Again, I was not a sports kid, so like sports injuries are new to me and all of that. So at the same dance competition, my oldest daughter just did a move and kind of tweaked her hip, and it has just progressively been getting worse. And so we have spent the week at doctor's appointments and driving across state lines to go to orthopedists, and now we have an MRI next week. So my week has just been about trying to reassure her. I mean, she's very nervous about having an MRI done, and we have Nutcracker coming up soon, and she's a little stressed about how that is all going to shake down with being prepared for that. So I wish that I could just play mahjong. But yeah, that's my week. But I'm trying to look at it from a lens of the timing of this actually probably being pretty great with starting this podcast and just kind of having a different perspective coming into a season with an injury and what that looks like and how to parent her through that, because that is such a common thing, especially with kids in sports. Probably something that most kids will encounter at some point. I mean, of course, the severity is different, but this is another new territory for me to navigate as a parent, and just what that looks like from a parenting perspective and keeping her calm and reassuring her. So that's what my week has been about.
Yeah, that's big stuff. Maybe you could teach your dancer how to play mahjong while she's sitting around not at dance. Or is that just gonna make her depressed?
It might make her depressed. We're
Fair,
to the point
fair.
where she is just going and sitting at the studio just so she can be there and be part of it still. But it's okay. These are all things that happen, and life lessons to be learned through these things. That's it for this episode. We hope that you'll check out our next one for fun stories of our first competition experiences and all the things that we didn't know that we needed to do, like feed our children. We'll see you next time.